in Burniston, the designer of the Pop It Ups dies for Elizabeth Craft Designs, and today I'm going to introduce you to my newest die. It is the House Pivot Card die. Now, where are you going to find this die? It's actually shipping right now. It's the middle of April 2014, so go ahead and check with your local independent scrapbook and stamping and crafting stores and see if they have ordered it. That is the best way for you to ensure that you can get your hands on one of these dies, is to go ahead and call your store and ask them to order it. We make it really easy for them, we promise. They just need to go to ecraftdesigns.com and open an account if they're not already an Elizabeth Craft Designs customer. And that way we are supporting our local stores, which we all should be doing when we can, obviously. However, those of you who have no local store, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad for you. But in your case, you will be able to order at some point off of ecraftdesigns.com. But first things first, give those local stores a try. They are there for you. I go around the country and the world, really, teaching at independent scrapbook stores, stamp stores, and they are just amazing people, and they want to sell you this die, I promise. Even if they don't have it in stock, they want to sell you this die, so go ahead and give them a call. My Designer Challenge team hails from 6 different states and 4 different countries. I do have that right now. And they really do create amazing things with my dies. So if you are watching this video anywhere other than the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog, there's going to be a link, okay? So either in the description area if you're on Facebook, or maybe below me down in the About section on YouTube, you will find a direct link over to the Elizabeth Craft Designs blog where you can see all of their amazing creations for this month's theme, which is mamas and babies, okay? So I challenged them to make either a Mother's Day card or a baby card using my dies, and a lot of them chose to do both. So you're going to get some great inspiration for a lot of my dies. And for my inspiration, like I said, I'm going to teach you how to use the House Pivot Card die, which is brand new. And along the way, I'll be working on my challenge card, which is going to be my Mother's Day card for Mom. Now, Mom, I know you're watching. You watch all my videos, so I apologize. I'm about to spoil both your card and your gift, but at least you'll get it on time this year. So, hey, you know, little benefits. When I was recently, last week, up in Virginia and Maryland teaching, I got an opportunity one day to go shopping, and I found this little wooden box, and inside it a matching mug, and I just loved it for my mom for Mother's Day, and especially because the saying says, home is where your mom is. So I just thought that was a perfect, perfect theme for the House Pivot Card die, and that's what I'll do on the video today. Okay, with any Pop-It-Ups die, your first step is to snip the die into its individual dies. So the House Pivot Card is an 8-die set. And the first thing I want to do is take a pair of die snips. We do sell these, Elizabeth Craft Designs die snips. And behind the die, in between that outer house and that inner brick house, you'll find 4 little very skinny connection threads. And you just have to get in there with the die snips and snip those so that that brick house is going to fall right out of your House Pivot Card die. Now, my preferred method is to always cut flush up next to a die with the die snips. And so what that means is it's going to leave the rest of the thread connected to one side or the other. So you can see here I've got a couple left connected to my little decorator house. And so just go around and snip those. That's something you want to do over the trash. They do tend to go flying. But if you snip them up close to the die, then they're usually fine. You don't really have too much to do afterwards. However, a Elizabeth Craft Designs file set is a great little tool to have just in case you have a nub that's kind of sharp or it bothers you. You can file down that nub. The rest of the decorator dies are all outside of the House Pivot Card die, so you just have to go in there again with the die snips, find those little tiny, tiny connection threads, and give them a little snip. And if you just kind of go along the top of the fence there and that outer portion of the house, you should be able to just snip all of the decorator dies out as just one big unit, and then go back in later and separate them. So here is the House Pivot Card die. Once you've got all the decorator dies taken away, then you're left with this. Now, 2 things you wouldn't want to snip are your alignment nubs in the center. So all the Pop-It-Up dies have those little alignment nubs in the center, and that's how you line it up over the card fold. Here are all of the individual dies once you've snipped them apart, so as I've done here. And you'll see that you have 8 pieces. You know, the really fun part about the pivot card dies is that you are always deciding your own card shape, your own card size, even your own placement along the fold. So in this case, I've cut an A2 sized card and scored it up the middle for folding. And I'm going to unfold that to where I can see the fold. And then for my card, before I die cut, I want to go ahead and add some grass strips. So I'm going to make a little scene here, and I've chosen a light blue cardstock to be my card base, and then I'm using some pattern paper to make some about 1-inch strips along the bottom to be my grass area. And then I'll just snip those to fit, and then add a third one on the front of the card. And again, I'm just going to snip that to fit. And now I am ready for die cutting. Pop-it-up dies are wafer-thin designs. They can be used in a variety of die cutting machines. Now for my tutorial today, I'm using a Sizzix Big Shot, and I've used the magnetic platform, and then I've still got a cutting pad on top of the platform. Add my card and then my pivot card with the alignment nubs right over the fold of the card, and I kind of line the fence up along the top of the grass, and then I'll just add my other cutting pad and roll that right through the Big Shot machine. Now when that comes out, it will have cut the pivot card into the card, and you may have a few confetti pieces to pick out, most likely the ones that are in the fence, although in this case they stuck in my die, so I'll just go back later and remove those from the die. And then the only piece I see that's still in the card that would need to come out is right there to the right of the house, and above that first picket there's just a little chunk of paper that can come out. That should be removed, so just take that out. And then here's the secret with folding this particular pivot card. The fence is a little more delicate, so the outer 2 pickets are actually going to go through the holes to the back of the card, and the inner 3 are going to come the other direction, and the pivot point is right there between those 2. So if you can kind of get in with your thumbnail maybe and find that pivot point, and then of course you're always going to pinch in between the 2 images, so in this case between the house and the fence. House itself is going to want to bend easily right in the center of the house. And so then it's very easy at this point to just give it a good press and open it up. And you'll see there's no actual folds in the house or in the fence. They stay whole. They just pivot on their pivot points. Pop-it-ups dies are always die sets. They come with the decorator pieces included. In this case, you've got 7 different decorator dies, and I'm lining them up here on the magnetic platform in the various colors that I want for my little roof and my windows and my window frames and my chimney and my house itself and all those little pieces in the door. And then after die cutting, I'm just going to kind of get those all out so that I can layer them together. The door comes out in 2 pieces. It's got the door and the door frame so that you can make those in different colors if you prefer. Now the decorator house has an optional brick emboss feature, so you'll get a little bit of emboss just from die cutting, but if you really want those bricks to show up, in the case of the Sizzix Big Shot, you'll go down to the tab 1, replace the bottom cutting pad with an impressions pad that's hard, and then a silicone pad that's squishy. So those 2 get used as a set. Your paper that's in the die goes paper side down against that squishy silicone, and then just a cutting pad on top. And then when you roll that through, that silicone is going to squish that paper up through those ejection holes and make that pretty brick pattern on the front of the house. And if you didn't want tone-on-tone brick, you could also use the die as a stencil to sponge some color onto the brick. In my case, I'm going to leave it tone-on-tone, and I'm just going to layer all the pieces together to create that fun little pastel kind of Mother's Day house. Now I did cut a second chimney. I'll show you where that goes in just a little bit. One thing that I think works great for doorknobs is the Elizabeth Craft Designs glitter dots in the black and silver color. So the interior is black and then the outer is silver, and those just make great little doorknobs. A super nice thing about the pivot cards is the fact that the same decoration decorates the inside of the card and the outside of the card at the same time. So you don't have to do a double decoration, just a single. With all the pop-it-ups dies, you always have the option to use the pop-up die itself as a decorator die. So in this case, I decided I wanted to change the color of the fence, so I put a piece of pattern paper under just the fence portion of the pop-up die, and then I'm also cutting some light white cardstock with that little extra picket die that comes with the set. So there's my little decorator fence. I'll need to trim that out in just a second. And then here's a couple of my extra pickets done in that lighter white cardstock, lightweight, I mean. And then in terms of the decorator fence, I just need to take some scissors. I love the Elizabeth Craft Designs detail scissors for this, and go in and just snip out so that I have just the fence itself. So since I've used the pivot card die as a decorator die, of course the die has no idea that I'm looking for just a decorator fence, so then I need to go in and snip out just the fence portion. A little fine line glue would be all I would need to then add that to the fence to change the color. Now with my 5 decorator pickets that I die cut out of the lightweight white cardstock, if I take a dark Copic marker, in this case I'm using an E47, and just brush lightly across the back of the cardstock, then when I flip those pickets over, they have this fun little bleed through that gives them this distressed look. And I decided in terms of adding them to the card that I would just use my Xyron X machine. So I could have used some fine glue for this, but if you have an X machine, that's kind of an easy way to add adhesive to the back of the little pickets. Now the fence is going to look great whether or not you use the extra picket that comes with the die set. And one fun thing about the shape of the extra picket is that it does look just like a birthday candle. So when you think in terms of grabbing your decorator dies out of some of your Pop-It-Ups dies to use in other projects, definitely think about that extra picket and how great that would be to use it as a birthday candle. Now if you'd like a welcome mat in front of the door itself makes a great welcome mat. Just die cut a second one, and then just cut at an angle, and then grab the little triangle. If you care that both sides are even, you can grab the little triangle and kind of try and hold it in place while you cut the other side to match. But basically you're looking to make that door into a little trapezoid, so it's going to be a little skinnier at the top than it is at the bottom. And when you do that, it really gives you that dimension of looking like a welcome mat. And in my case, I've glued it on, and then I would like to keep it up on the pop-up, so I'm going to go ahead and take off the excess with a pair of scissors. Okay, so all the decorating that I'm going to do with the house pivot card is now done. You can see it's a great card just as it is, but I'm going to finish it out with some of the decorator dies from the Pop-It-Ups collection, like the All Seasons tree. I'm going to use the little grass out of the garden bench card, and then I'm going to use some of the labels that come with the fancy accordion album to finish out this card. Okay, I'll walk you through my decorations. I used the All Seasons tree to cut a couple clouds for the front of the card, and I also used that extra chimney piece. That's where I put that, right there on the front of the card, kind of lined up with the partial chimney you could see through the opening. Stuck to the left side of the pivoting house, I added the grass piece from the garden bench die, and that way I get the benefit of that same grass being shown when the card is closed and when the card is open. Now speaking of when the card is open, I used the All Seasons tree to create a tree for the right-hand side of my card, another piece of grass from the garden bench die, and a computer-generated greeting, home is where your mom is, with the fancy accordion decorator labels to cut them out. Now a few members of my Designer Challenge team were available on rather short notice to be able to make some cards for me for the launch of this die. And so I thought I would roll through those real quick here so you can see some of the fun things that they have made using the die. A couple here from Kelly Booth, different themes. Now the best way, if you want to look at these a little closer, is to find them on their blogs. And one way you could start would be to go onto Facebook, like the Karen Burniston Designer page, just click on photos, scroll through, find the things that you want to look at, and then it'll link right to their blog so you can get more information and photographs of those cards. But you can see that the die can be used for a lot of different themes. Raquel Mason here has used it as a birdhouse, so that's kind of a fun one there. And she also did something fun. She reversed the fold, so the fence is on the front of the house or the card, and then the house is on the inside. So that's another easy adaptation of the die. Gretchen Schmidt made a fun little dog house. Love that with the little dog stamps. And then she also did a gingerbread Christmas house with the die, and I love those little peppermint pickets on the fence. And then this one's kind of a crowd favorite. It's Raquel Mason's Up House, and she made a lot of little Shimmer Sheets balloons. I just love the cleverness of this card. If you have enjoyed this tutorial, I sure hope that you will subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. You can find more information at ecraftdesigns.com or karenburniston.com. Thanks for watching.